Hello, my name is Tucker Johnson, and I am your host today as we experience NIMSY Live, where we talk about the latest and greatest in translation, localization, internationalization, culturalization, and all that fun stuff global companies need to delight their international customers. On this program, we invite guests who like to have fun and have some value to add for our audience of globalization professionals. I'm always eager to provide a platform to those with a good story or a good data set. So, let us know if there are any topics you'd like covered or guests that we should reach out to for future episodes. If you haven't already done so, make sure that you are subscribed to NIMSY Insights, following NIMSY Insights on LinkedIn, X, Facebook. We've actually got some fun stuff over on our Instagram too. There are a number of different ways that you can stay up to date with industry trends and industry research. A quick plug here for an upcoming event that we're really looking forward to. It's going to be great. It's with Yorick, my colleague. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. But on March 11th, 9 o'clock a.m. PST is when that's going to happen. There's already over 350 people signed up for it. We're talking about large language model solutions and how to use them. And this is a really good, yes, people are still talking about large language models. It's a really good, it's still very relevant because there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of hype going around out there. So it's a good opportunity. Hear from the experts here at NIMSY. We've taken the time to review what's real, what's hype, and kind of let you cut through some of that craziness that you keep seeing out there on LinkedIn. Also, check your mailboxes. There is a new edition, and check your virtual mailboxes if you're a digital subscriber. Check your real mailboxes if you are a print subscriber. There's a new issue of Multilingual Magazine out there. I love this issue because it is the influencer issue. And what does that mean? That means that we are taking a look at a lot of industry influencers. We're ranking people that are have had a profound effect on the industry. This was a result of you guys out there in the industry. You voted, you nominated people, you voted, and the results are in. So make sure to check that out over at multilingual.com. You can find out how to become a subscriber and how to get your hands on that. Lastly, another great way to stay up to date on industry trends is the Localization Today podcast. This is published as well by Multilingual Media, and it is just a great daily update, very short, digestible tidbits about the industry. If you're not a reader, if you don't like to go over to multilingual.com and check out the daily news that they're publishing about the industry there, then you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. So that's it for my plugs for today. Let's get right into the topic today. Today, we're talking about growth. We are talking about how LSPs can build out their sales function and get over that hump that so many LSPs experience in their growth trajectory. Here at NIMSY Insights, we work with a lot of LSPs. We advise them on growth strategy, help them build out sales teams, all of that good stuff. This is how I met our guest today, working on one of those projects. And it's a pretty common thing. LSPs, they get to that 5 to 10 million mark, maybe a little bit over 10 million, and stagnate. They can't get over that growth hump. And today we're going to be talking about how to get over that growth hump, maybe hiring and onboarding your first sales function. And with that, to talk about that, I could talk about it, but you shouldn't listen to anything that I have to say. So we brought on a guest, my friend and colleague, Kaarina Kvaavik.
Well
Kvaavik is...
Kvaavik.
Did I do good?
Well done,
Did I do
Tucker.
good? All right.
You did well.
All right, so today we have Kaarina Kvaavik, an accomplished sales leader renowned for architecting high-performance teams across prominent translation providers, and we're going to be demystifying building revenue engines. Kaarina shares field-tested tips steering fledgling language services companies from fragmented founder-led sales organizations to scalable specialized teams delivering repeatable results. That's my introduction for you. Kaarina, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Thank you, Tucker. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. Um, so talk to me. First, I want to talk. I know about your background a little bit, at least, and we've gotten the pleasure of working together, which is super cool. But for the audience, tell us about what is your background? How long have you been in the language services industry? What have you been doing?
Oh, I've been here for over 25 years. I don't really want to talk about that, but anyway, so
Yeah,
over
we don't need to
25
date
years. So
ourselves.
I think I just did anyway. But I have been involved in localization, both on the client side and on the vendor side, and peripherally as well, so on the technology side for these last 25 years. I have on the client side, I was doing international product management, so kind of managing products that needed to be localized and then sent out into the world for customers to use, and dealing then with vendors, obviously in that role. And then after that, I moved over on the vendor side and have been in sales and marketing since then, um, building up teams, building up companies. So, sort of a little bit of a serial entrepreneur. Had a smaller boutique company for a while, specifically localization here in the Northeast, but we obviously had customers all over the world, and then more on the technology side in localization. So that's kind of my background. So what I do, what I enjoy doing is building sales teams, building sales and sales teams that work in conjunction with marketing teams, because that's where the biggest effect is. So that's what I do. That's what I enjoy.
Yeah, and it's a good place to be. It's a good skill set to have right now. Like I said, we work with a lot of different companies, client side and vendor side here. But the number one challenge that when people ask me, what is the number one challenge companies are facing? And because, at Nimsy Insights, we do all of that research and stuff, and we've been around for about 7 years. And my answer hasn't changed in 7 years. And in a word, it's growth.
Yeah.
LSPs come to Nimsy Insights because they want to grow. And we have some services and products that we offer to help with that, trainings and consulting engagements and sales building and all of that stuff. But so different companies need different things, but they all want to grow. And like I said in the short introduction, it's a pretty common scenario where a company gets to 5 million. Usually it's within that. It's right around that $6-7 million, right?
Yep.
Right? Like I don't know why
Yeah.
that, but you're smiling and nodding.
Yeah. There
So
are a couple of different levels, right?
yeah,
So the first hump to get over is that $1 million mark, right?
yeah, yeah,
So, when you're first starting out, then it seems to
yeah.
go
I
up
I
to
just
the
don't talk to those guys as much because I
no,
can't afford to
no,
work with
I
MZ.
know they
Sorry.
can't afford you.
There's a lot of free resources on our websites, guys.
But but then there's the next step, which is like around between 2 and 3. It's like the doubling part, right? And then the next one happens around 5 to 7, and it just stops. They can't sort of move forward from there and scale up, and it's a real problem, and it's a real challenge.
Yeah, and why do you think that is? This is like the number one question, or one of the questions I wanted to ask you today. Why is that? Like we can recognize, and it seems that we both agree that these humps exist in LSP growth trajectory, but why do you think that is?
I think there are a number of contributing factors. I think that the right people are not necessarily hired. I think that there is a lack of process and a lack of training and technology that are provided to the teams that you're hiring. And I also think that there's a lot of, at least in this industry, there's a lot of well, it's worked so far. Why should we change it? Or why should we fix it? Or why should we try something different? It's almost, like it ain't broken. Why fix it?
Right.
But that also means that there's not a ton of innovation, right, that happens in sales methodology, or the tools that are being used, or how you're approaching things, or various markets that you try to hit. It's like, I'm really good at automotive, I'm going to stick here. And because of that, there's a limited amount of customers that you're actually targeting, right?
Yep.
So it's not sort of, how they always say that, there just isn't a silver bullet.
Yep.
There isn't. There is
There
no
isn't.
silver bullet.
Yeah, and well, there's no silver bullet, but there's some things that these companies. So the number one question I wanted to ask is like, why do you think that happens, right? And I can give my input, which mirrors yours a lot. Is, and I'm a business owner myself. Like we founded MZ Insights 6 7
Right.
years ago, and in those initial phases, it's like, yeah, I have a company, I have a business card, but really it's just me and my co-founder, right?
Yeah.
And then you hire your first employees, and then you grow and you get a big project, and it goes from there. um and one thing, and like I'm lucky enough to work with Renato Benedetto, and he's the guy. He knows this ain't his first rodeo, and exactly right. I feel the same way. And he, was very clear, like, we need to hire salespeople, right? Like from the very beginning. And I think for a lot of business owners, hiring that first salesperson is it's a big step. People don't want to hire a salesperson, and frankly, they don't need to, because they grow quite fine up to a certain point. Usually, the owner is the salesperson. They don't.
Yep.
It doesn't say so on the business card, but they're the ones out there closing the deals. And hiring that first salesperson is a big step. Um, why do you think people are hesitant to hire that first salesperson? I've got my opinions, but I want to hear yours.
Because it costs money.
Okay.
I
Well,
think.
next question. Uh,
You know,
right?
when Yes, of course, there's salespeople are not cheap.
They're
And
not.
when you're in that mode, you try to get everything for cheap. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it, I've been there, right? But it works, as you said, it works to a point where, the owner, co-founder, founder, whatever it is, CEO, works as the salesperson for the company. Been there, done that several times. But there comes a point where it's not good for the growth of the company,
Yeah.
for this to continue. So you kind of have to let go.
Yeah.
And then hiring that first person is expensive, it's daunting. We've never done this before. Or even if we have a couple of salespeople, to start with, we're expanding the team, and the cost, the on target earnings, with the base salary, the commission, all of this, and then you have to involve marketing. It's just a cost, but people
Yep.
don't realize that investment is going to pay off.
Well,
To
it,
make
it's
money, you need to spend money, right?
yeah, and it's a cost without a very clear, like, what am I getting for this cost? Like, if I hire a project manager, I'm getting project management. And
Right.
like, there's a very clear need. I hire that person, the need goes away. And with salespeople, it's like, I'm going to hire this person, and most owners don't understand what salespeople do. They don't understand that the value, they don't fully understand the value that they bring. And so that creates a couple problems. A, it's like, I don't want to hire someone because I don't understand and appreciate the value that they bring. B, it's very challenging to hire and to manage a function that you don't understand yourself, right?
Correct.
So if I'm a translator, and I get a big project and I hire a couple other translators. Now I have employees, right? I get another big project. I say, well, I'm going to incorporate, I'm going to start a company. That's how a lot of LSPs started, right? With a
Yep.
translator who got a big project and started hiring people. And I'm now a CEO founder, and I'm still a translator, right? And so
Yep,
I think like a translator. And it's hard for translators to understand and appreciate the value that salespeople bring, right?
absolutely. Um, not just sales, but then, add the complexity of marketing to that. And you definitely
Oh,
have a
marketing.
lack of understanding. Like, why would we possibly ever need marketing? We're doing so great the way that we're doing.
Yeah, marketing's a whole
Um,
different.
yeah,
What would you say? So if I have not, I'm a LSP. I haven't really invested in dedicated sales nor dedicated marketing. Where do I start? Do I start with marketing? Do I start with sales?
I would start with marketing
I
actually.
would too. I would too.
You
If
know,
for no other reason, because it helps you create a brand, and
it,
it's going to
yes,
make your sales team's job easier. Once you do hire those salespeople, like they're gonna be making calls and they're gonna say, "Hi, this is Tucker with Acme LSP Incorporated," and it changes that conversation from like who are you with, to
the
oh, Acme
biggest issue.
LSP, right?
Yes, the biggest issue. If you so if you're planning on hiring salespeople, sales executives, whatever you're planning to hire them at, in regards to cost, um, they should not be the ones that are picking up the phones and calling customers, as you said, and the
Shh,
responses.
don't tell my salespeople that.
Well, there's an element of that, right? But if you're hiring someone with a base of 100K, that's not where you want them to
No,
spend their
you're wasting
time,
money
right?
if they're cold
Right,
calling.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things that happens and happens a lot. That there's been no pre-marketing, if we put it that way. So there's been no pre-marketing. Nothing has been put in play to actually create any kind of brand recognition. Then you go off and you hire a salesperson, and often I've found in our industry, uh, there's a belief that you have to hire someone that knows localization. Um, that is not my belief.
Okay.
I think that you have to hire someone that is really good at sales. You can teach them localization. You can't necessarily teach them sales, right? In my belief, right? This is my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, so you hire someone, this person, has been at another LSP and they come expensive because the real heavy hitters do. And then you put them into this small organization and they really got nothing because you haven't prepared. You haven't
Yeah.
prepared properly to hire this person. This is this is the biggest um problem and the easiest one to rectify, if you just do it properly from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, make sure that you have clear objectives, understand what your targets are. Make sure that there is a sales playbook for the person that comes. Make sure that there are tools, that there's training. You have a 30, 60, 90-day plan for these people, and also understand that they are not going to be hitting their revenue numbers, the target numbers, first year.
Well,
You have, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
say it again for the people in the back, right? Because I've
Yeah,
worked with people. Oh, well, we want to grow, but we tried hiring sales once and it was a disaster and we wasted a lot of money. So I don't ever want to hire salespeople again. It's like, okay, well, tell me a little bit about that. Well, yeah, after 5 months, they hadn't closed a single deal. Hmm.
yeah,
Okay. How long were you expecting? Right? Because you don't start on day one. The salesperson doesn't start on day one with a full pipeline ready to close deals. And the way that deals work in our industry, now different verticals have different sales cycles, right? But the way that it works is, I say give it 9 months to start seeing actual closed revenue results. And up till that
yeah.
time, don't measure them by the revenue. Measure your salespeople by the activities that they're doing. Are they
Absolutely,
making the
right? Are they
calls?
getting
Are they
meetings?
having the
Yes, yeah,
conversations? But I've also
yeah.
heard up to 12 months. Like give them 12 months.
It it varies, right? So I kind of have a little bit of a gauge that I go by. So, but it's going to require that you actually have some data to base this on. Everything should be data driven,
Should
right?
be.
So if you look at what your average sales cycle is, and say that your average sales cycle is, 6 months, in localization, it is very long. But if this is for something that's outside of localization, it could obviously be shorter. And then you add 90 days to that. So your 90 days is kind of the ramp for a person, which is why I normally recommend to have a 30, 60, 90-day plan so that you know what the salesperson is doing. You can drive the activities, you can get them trained, you can do all of the things that you need to do in these 60 days and after, or 90 days. And after that, you kind of let them loose. But there's the additional sales cycle after that, right? So I kind of have, my expectations is for the first 3 months, there's nothing. There's nothing in revenue. If anything pops in, that's yoo-hoo,
Yeah.
super. After that, I start kind of basically doing a percentage of their quota for each month. And up until I get to 100%, which depends on, again, what is the sales cycle and the ramp time put together.
Yeah.
So, on a good day, I would say that hiring someone in localization sales, you're gonna see 50 to 60% on a good day
Mm-hmm.
of their quota the first year,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But not more than that.
Not
And
more than that.
a
Yeah.
lot of leaders just don't think about this. They don't understand this. So, their expectation is that, their quota is 1 million,
Yep.
starting day one. Well, that's just not going to be. So if they get 600 grand this year, that's super. That's really good.
Yep.
You got to play it to be in for the long term.
Yep.
Right. But that obviously also means you got to hire the right people.
You got to hire the right people. And before we go on to actually building and managing the sales team, like I wanted to ask you, like, still on that topic of my first hire. So
Yeah.
we would we agree, hire a marketing person first. And the great thing about marketing is it's not that expensive. It's not that big of a risk, right? You can find people offshore locations willing to work for a monthly salary that's very affordable. And so then you hire your first salesperson. Now, different schools of thought on this. Do I go in and hire a killer salesperson and pay them a lot of money? Because one thing I know is what the best salespeople in the industry and in the world have in common is they know their worth. And that's one of the attributes, one of the characteristics that makes them a good salesperson. They know their worth and they're not going to work for cheap. So I can go out and hire a superstar and poach them from a competitor or something, or her from a competitor. Or I can hire someone from outside the industry, or I can hire a junior level person, someone that I can pay very cheap, someone fresh out of college who maybe doesn't have that experience, and I can set them to work like booking calls. One strategy that I've used before is let's hire junior people. We don't expect them to close the deal and manage the whole pipeline, but they're going out there and they're booking calls with me, with Renato, and bringing us in, right? What are your thoughts on this? Who's my first hire? How much of an investment do I make on that? Or do I hire, I've done this before too, or instead of hiring one senior salesperson, do I hire 5 junior people, right? And this is a strategy that I've used quite a bit. You hire 5 people and 60, 90 days later, you have 3 of them. Maybe one of them quit, one of them sucked, and then you've got 3 rock stars.
Absolutely. I would, I'm not sure that one method is the solution. I would probably use a combination. I would not start with hiring the rock star.
Okay.
If this is my first hire, then I can tell you right off the bat, my organization is not ready for a rock star.
Yeah, and they're going to leave. They're going to get bored and leave.
They're
rock stars want to make money.
Hell? Yes, and a good salesperson wants to make money.
Yeah.
All right.
I want my salespeople greedy and broke.
Right.
No,
That's
that's
a
not
good
true.
one.
I take that back. I want my salespeople. I don't want my salespeople broke. I want them rich. I want my salespeople to make more money than I do.
Absolutely.
Right?
That
Because
should
if
be the
they're making
goal.
money, that means they're making me money. Right? And I see a lot of
Correct.
people get bitter about paying commissions
Oh,
to their salespeople. Right? Well,
yeah.
I can't. My salesperson's making more money than me. Good.
That's fantastic because that means that they're making money for the company,
Yes.
right? Hiring is it's such a tricky thing. But to go back to your question, um, the junior people that you call them, that's what I would call BDRs, right?
Yeah.
Business development reps. They're the dial for dollar
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
kind of people.
These are the people
There's
that are clogging my LinkedIn messages every time I open it.
right.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So there's um, that used to be the way to go just a few years ago. There's been a lot of a change over just in the last year, couple of years, in that have a smaller team. Don't have a large team that does this. Have a smaller team, have them very focused, right? Everything is all focus based. So I would probably in my order of doing things, I would start with marketing. After marketing, I would hire one, possibly two juniors, as in BDRs,
Hmm.
to kind of test the waters and to test the processes that you have, test the material. It's not going to be that expensive of a learning experience for you. Plus, you sort out all the kinks, and
Yeah.
then you hire someone. I I am my organization. If this was me now, like
Yeah.
pretend, right? I'm still not ready for that rock star. That rock star or those rock stars come in after I've been doing this for a little bit. I actually like to hire outside of the industry,
Okay.
and I like to hire hungry, right? So I'm not looking for the farmers. The farmers can stay on the account management side or do whatever. I'm looking for hunters,
Yeah.
right? And there are only so many to go around. So if I'm looking to
Right.
hire in the localization industry, hiring like a good one, I'm going to have to poach. And
Yeah.
poaching is expensive and it's super risky,
Yep.
right? So I'd rather go off and find people that are really good at sales,
Yeah.
that understand the kind of methodology that I want to sell by or use when, for my organization, right? And it could be solution selling, consulting selling, Sandler, whatever it is that you want to use if you have a methodology,
Yep.
right? If you don't have one, um, I would suggest that you find one, that
Well,
you look for one that
what I
fits you.
say is if you got one salesperson, it doesn't matter what methodology you use or they use, it doesn't matter. But once you start building teams, then you need to have a common way of working. You need to have a common language that you
Yes,
speak.
I
And
absolutely agree
there's
because
no
you're building
best
the foundation.
methodology. Just pick
No,
one.
no, there isn't. I'm partial to solution selling. I'm
Yep.
partial to consulting or
Customer centric,
consultative, customer centric for
consultative. Yep.
sure, right? Because I think that fits the kind of customers that I'm used to working with. I like to solve problems, right? But if you're looking to scale, if you're looking to grow and be able to scale what you're doing, you need to create things that are repeatable, right?
Yep.
And to create things that are repeatable, you need to have a lot of failures to start, right? You need to try things that are not working
Hmm.
and realize that this just isn't working. Okay, scrap that and let's try something else,
Yep.
because you're just not going to walk into it with all the answers,
Yep.
because depends on your own organization, what the culture is, how what are the products that you're selling. Now, if I'm only thinking localization industry, it still varies because, what kind of tools do you have? What methodologies are you using? Blah, blah, blah. So, with one person, start small, have one BDR, and then match that BDR up with a sales executive or an AE or whatever you want to call them. Titles are really important. And then go from there and grow, but create something that is repeatable
Yep.
and then scalable.
Well, and let's take this. Oh, and by the way, guys, this is one of those crazy streams where it's like 3 times as many people are logging in today than who signed up for it. So if you're one of those people, if you have any questions, comments, go ahead and put them in chat. We'll bring them up. Any share your experience or ask your questions. So get Kaarina's point of view on things, and I'll bring those up on screen. But moving on to, so you've fired your sales team. You've letting them kind of figure things out. Your first salesperson, which tells me that you're an ops heavy company. Like you've grown, you got ops down, you got operations down. You're doing a good job. You're going through referrals organically, all of that stuff. So how does the ops team feel about sales? Like, because I've noticed before, there's always this, let's call it healthy conflict between operations and sales. And how do you mitigate that? How do you manage that when building your first sales organization?
You kind of forced them together, you know.
Yeah, lock them in a room, and
Yep,
it's like having
pretty
two
much.
kids. You just tie their
Yep,
wrists together and say,
yep.
until you can play
Figure out how to
nice.
get out of this room,
Yeah.
like there this is so common. Everyone thinks, oh, we're the only ones that are having this problem, but they're not, right? It is super common. The ops people always think that the salespeople are overstepping their boundaries and that they don't really know what they're talking about because they know everything behind the scenes. The salespeople always think that the ops people are too slow, and why do they have to have all the details on every single project? Like, why do I have to fill out these stupid forms? I'm just here to stop. Right? Sound familiar?
And
Talking?
they're both right, is the thing.
Yes.
They're both right. Salespeople are too pushy, and ops people are too slow. So
Yes. And that is the lay of the land. That is just how it is. So we got to learn to play in the same sandbox.
yeah,
And the way that I've overcome some of these issues in the past is by basically having KPIs or OKRs or whatever the hell you want to call them, uh, but have goals that actually force these two parts of the company to work together.
hmm,
So you can have, corporate goals that involve both groups. They're going to have to come together. Like, what should our target customer look like?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, if sales goes off and defines this on their own,
It's gonna
they're
be our ideal customer is one with money.
yeah, right.
That's gonna be the
Good one, right?
salesperson's ideal target customer.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So instead, look at the data that we have. Look at the kinds of customers that ops have been dealing with. What are the characteristics? Talk to them, right? So once you actually start to create that communication, more of a natural communication, not necessarily the forced one that you're starting with, but the natural one, it's gonna get a lot easier.
yeah.
And sales have so much to learn from ops because they can get better at selling in specific situations if they listen to mistakes, failures, successes that the ops team have had. And the ops team have a lot to learn from sales in
Yeah.
understanding the kind of situations that they're in.
They they
Not
they
sales,
do.
not easy.
I can speak from an ops perspective, right?
Right.
And I like to think that I have a pretty specialized background and way of approaching things because I'm an ops guy that has had the good fortune to have been exposed to sales a lot. Like one of my last positions before Nimsy was I worked on like the customer onboarding team. So I was the ops guy. I managed ops people, but I worked very closely with sales from all through the pipeline to help them close the deal, kind of like a solutions architect type role,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
helped onboard the client, all of that stuff, right? So I got exposed to sales then through Nimsy. I mean, if you own a company, you're a salesperson, right? So I'm in sales now, whether I like to admit it or not. So I
Right.
have this background where I've seen both sides, and I still identify as an ops guy. But let's be real, I'm a salesperson too. So
Yeah.
one of my passions is I love talking to ops teams, and I've developed a number of workshops around this, and I love teaching sales to ops teams. I don't call it sales because
Ah,
if I said, I'm teaching you about sales, they would all run away like their hair's on fire because, like, oh, I
right.
don't want to be
You
a
don't want
dirty
to listen.
salesperson.
Exactly. Hmm.
I'm not one of those guys. But I love teaching basic sales principles to operations team, and really teaching them how sales adds value. And so, like, my book that I wrote, The General Theory of the Translation Company, one of like the overarching theses in it is there are three core functions of an LSP. There's project management, vendor management, and sales. And these are the core functions because these are the things that add value, right? They
Right.
add value to the
Yeah.
value chain. And a lot of questions or pushback that I get is, well, how does sales add value? Like, how does sales add value to the end customers? And it's like, yeah, you're laughing,
Yeah.
but
Sorry.
maybe I'll turn it over to you. How does sales add value to the end customers?
Oh my God. Sales help solve problems. Sales looks for the pain points,
Yeah.
understand the
And
pain
I
points of the
include account
customer.
management as a sales function, by the way.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Yes, yes, totally. And this information is valuable if you actually get to the point where you sign on a customer. The information that sales has is what will keep the customer there and make sure that there's, repeat business from it. You understand, no one understands the customer like the salesperson to start with,
Yep.
right? That doesn't mean that responsibility doesn't change hands, right? Because it does. The transfer will happen over to the ops team. But for the initial part, the well-rounded salesperson um, should be making the customer a hero, right? It is not about us, and that's a really really valuable lesson that I have learned over the years. um, it is not about us. I'm
Right.
having a company right now, let's say that, right? So it's not about us. It's not about the services that we provide. It's not about that we have the best project managers in the world, and we can do this and we can do that and we have tools. It is not about that. Like, put your ego on the shelf, and it's about the customer.
About the customer.
And good salespeople understand this. What is that you have? What is that
Oh,
animal that just crawled
the
up?
cat and the bird
Oh,
are
was that
going
the
to
cat?
war. I'm probably
Oh,
making
okay,
people
all
in the
right.
audience nervous.
I just saw it kind of looked like almost like a raccoon from the back, but it was cat.
Yep.
Oh,
There we go.
there. Oh, awesome. Uh, so making the customer the hero in the story and not your company.
Yeah, right.
That is
It's not
the
about you.
main
It's about
point.
the customer. And this is
No,
what I tell project
no.
managers. And, I like to, when I'm doing a workshop with project managers, what's your job? Oh, my job is to deliver on time. My job is to high quality translations. My job is to, no, your job is to make the client's life easier and to make your client look good to their boss.
Absolutely.
Two
Make
things.
them the hero,
Make their
right?
job, make their life easier, help them get a good
Yeah,
night's sleep at night. You don't want your
yeah,
client lying awake at night wondering, in fear, and help them get a promotion, help them look good to their boss. That's it.
exactly.
Now, the way that you do that is high quality on
Right.
time translations, but that's just
Yes.
one of the ways, right?
Yeah.
And if you're
And
delivering high
that's
quality on time translations, but the client's still losing sleep and the client still isn't looking good to their boss, then you're not doing your
yeah.
job.
Right, exactly. Then what's the point? There's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily understand this, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is where again, when we talk about building sales teams, um, those are the kinds of people that I want to hire. The people that truly understand who the hero in this story is. Who are we there to delight?
Yep.
Right? Whose job do we need to make easier? Who do we need to make look good?
Yep.
That's the people that you're looking for. That's the people that I'm looking for. And I don't care, inside industry, outside industry, young ones, old ones. That it doesn't matter. It's the people that get it.
Yep.
That's what matters. And if you can do that, then you're creating a good organization.
Well, and some of the best salespeople I know, and I'll just use a specific example without naming names, but one of the, if not the best salesperson I know in the industry, like back before I had a more well-rounded view of sales, I was one of those prejudiced ops guys who just thought they were all slick-haired used car salesmen.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the best salespeople I've ever met in my life, and didn't understand some basic things about how localization got done. And I remember because he was, I was having a conversation, asking questions, something about, how to calculate a profit margin or something. Just didn't understand it. And I was appalled. I was like, my gosh, this is the person, like, he doesn't even understand this, but who cares? Right? Like, who cares? That's not his job. That's why if the salesperson could do my job, then they wouldn't need me. He'd be selling and he'd be delivering, and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Right.
also, there was a lot of things that I didn't understand too. Like
Right. Well, and
salespeople
that's
need ops people and vice versa.
absolutely, and that's okay. So the salesperson needs to understand how to do a gross margin calculation if it's important to their customer,
Yeah.
right? Or it's
Or
a price
they need to have the
position,
phone
right?
number of their favorite
Yeah,
project manager who they can call and say, I need
right.
profit margin calculations.
Exactly,
Sure thing.
exactly. So that they know how they can, what kind of price should we put on this? What makes sense, right? One of those things that I've also learned kind of the hard way. I have a lot of those lessons,
Yeah,
which is
those are the
great,
best
right?
ways to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Is make friends with finance. You know,
Oh,
be
yes.
if you're a sales leader, right? If you're a part of the C-suite, whatever, um, let the CFO be your best friend. They're amazing. A lot of times and I'm speaking as we, right now, we find them being a threat. That's scary. They
Yep.
come and they talk about numbers, and I haven't hit my numbers, and this and that numbers, but they are amazing at figuring out um, ways around things, like work together with them. If you haven't hit your numbers, okay, work together. What do we do?
Yeah.
Right? Form that bond. It's fantastic, and you learn
Yep.
a lot.
Yeah, I'm agree. Make friends with finance. Make friends with everybody because you're gonna
Well,
need to
true.
make friends with legal because make friends with all of the people whose internally whose job it is to say no, and that's finance, that's legal, that's infosec and IT.
Yeah,
Right?
yep,
Because you're going to get
good
the
point.
sweetheart deal on the table, and that contract's going to be ready to sign, and
Yeah.
legal and IT
So
and
that, nope.
finance and HR, they're going to be the people that are going to be like, I can't sign this because of this
Ex-
clause, right? So play
exactly.
nice.
Very, very true. Very
Well,
true.
and speaking of IT, let's go to technology.
Oh,
CRM, customer relationship
yeah.
management software.
Yep.
And I mean, my opinion is if you're selling, have a CRM. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, period, right?
Yeah.
What does it, but that can be scary for someone that's never implemented a CRM. Talk to us a little bit about you would advise a client that's never had a sales function, isn't using a CRM. What's the point? What's the value? How much does it cost? Go.
Oh, I don't know the cost of things because there are so many out
Different,
there.
different.
I mean, there are
Like
ones that
the
are
one you
free.
want costs a lot of money. The one that is good
Well,
enough is good
yeah.
enough, right?
There are CRMs out there that are specifically for smaller organizations. There are CRMs that are for large, complex organizations. I've worked with both or several of them, but a CRM is a gold mine. It is the only thing that is going to make you be able to predict things into the future.
Hmm.
It's the only thing where you can go in and actually look at your pipeline. What does it look like? How healthy is it? What is the lifetime value of a customer? What is our close ratio? What is our conversion ratio? Like all of these things, it's everything is so data driven that when you don't have the data, you really truly can't make proper decisions,
Yep.
right? But And a lot of times when we start, basically our CRM is an Excel spreadsheet
And
or, a sheet.
better than nothing.
Absolutely, certainly. And that's where we all start. No one is going to start a company and implement Salesforce the first thing that they do.
Yeah.
It's just not going to
Well,
happen, right?
I did because my partners were not a Beninato. Well, not Salesforce.
Well,
We couldn't afford Salesforce,
no,
but yeah,
exactly.
CRM was
So,
literally like the first piece of technology
right,
that I
right.
got.
But most people, as you said, there's a translator that got a big project that, hired a few other translators, etc. Right? So gather data. I mean, what I can say about CRMs is that they're invaluable in looking backwards and looking forwards.
Yep.
They have all the data that you need.
Mm.
Super, super, super important. So if there's anything I can recommend to everyone that's listening is get a CRM. Like, start small.
Yep.
I have preferences, but I'm not here to sell anything,
To
So
me, it's like, and I stole this from somebody else who stole it from somebody else, but I say it all the time: is the best tool for the job is the one that you know how to use. Right?
fair.
It
Absolutely.
it's get a CRM. Doesn't matter which one. Right?
Yeah.
Now,
And
if
it needs to be easy. Like don't go complex. There
well,
are
so I'm using Zoho CRM, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
was very affordable entry point for
yeah,
us.
for sure.
It's grown with us, and the reason I chose it, other than the affordability of it, was because it integrated with my other suites, my other tools
Yeah,
that I use.
yeah, yeah,
And there's some CRMs that integrate really well with Office 365. There's some that integrate really well with Google. There's some that, and we're using G Suite, Google Workplace,
yeah,
and
yeah,
this was seamless integration. I tested a bunch of them, and that's the one that I chose.
yeah, yeah. I've worked with HubSpot. I've worked with Zoho. I've
I
worked with
love HubSpot.
Salesforce. I love HubSpot. Okay, so I said it.
Yeah,
All right,
there we go. Like we'll go on record and say I don't have a
I,
favorite CRM. Yeah, you do.
yeah, I do.
Everyone has a
I
favorite
I do.
CRM, and it's
Yeah.
always HubSpot. I'm
And
sorry,
it's
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 just
so
sexy.
great,
Yeah.
except for when you become a really large organization, right? Then it does have limits because it has the cost becomes a little bit too much because you basically have to pay for the number of contacts that you have
Oh,
in
to
your
tens of
CRM.
thousands of dollars a month.
Yeah.
Like I've seen the
So
bills before at
yeah,
big
so you
organizations.
want to be careful, right? You
Yeah.
want to be careful, you want to be measured. But I mean, it also has a lot of tools that they have a marketplace, just like Salesforce has the App Exchange. They have sequencing for salespeople. There's a lot of tools, and there are other tools that are easily integrated into the CRM, right? Like some customer insight tools that are really good. There are the very expensive ones, and there are the not so expensive ones. Um, and all the AI stuff that's coming.
Oh,
That's
we lasted
not coming.
48 minutes without talking about AI.
See, that's pretty good.
I can stop my stopwatch. I think that's a record. I think for the last 12 months, it's been about 20 minutes on average before we start talking
Yeah,
about AI.
yeah, yeah. No, so there's a lot to be said there. There are a lot of tools. There are tools that don't work very well.
Hmm.
There are tools that work really well. I think you have to take a look at, if we look at the sales side specifically, what creates efficiencies, what
Yeah.
creates automation,
Here's
what
one thing
gives
they
you
all have in
insight.
common is your salespeople are going to complain about them.
Well, yes, of course.
So just because your
Always.
salesperson's complaining about the CRM doesn't mean you need to change it.
Nope.
There's
Nope.
my piece of
They
advice.
Well, salespeople always have a lot to say.
Oh,
And
that's a very
that's,
good way of putting that.
right,
That
right.
is
And
a
that's
very good
that's a
way
good
of,
thing, right?
yeah.
That's a good thing. But it doesn't mean, so here's another thing that I learned. Um, just because someone says it doesn't mean that it's true,
That's right.
right?
Exactly.
So be careful, you listen to. I mean, listen to everyone, but make
You're
decisions
the
that are
boss.
yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we have a little bit of time left. I wanted to ask you about one more thing, because you mentioned it earlier. You said, when you're onboarding a sales team, getting all ready for all of that stuff, have a sales playbook. What is a sales playbook, and why should I have one?
A
Honest
sales.
question, because I have a couple
Yes.
clients that are paying me money to write a sales playbook for them. So
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you should talk to me then, Tucker.
I
So
should, I can outsource this to you. I don't have to be
you
writing it
can.
myself.
So a sales playbook is what basically what you provide your salespeople with that contains information about the company, strategic, vision, mission, all of that. It includes the products that you're selling or the services, what are they? What's the value prop here? It contains objection handling, right? So you talk to a customer and they say, oh, this is way too expensive. What is your response? How do you get around that?
Mm.
So basically, it contains pricing, competitive information, because anything that a salesperson could need when they actually have a meeting or a conversation with a customer. It needs to be at their fingertips. And this is something, it's a live document, right? It changes. If you have an existing sales team already, um, have them help writing it
Right.
because they're going to know, right? They're going to know the objections that they're used. It's going to contain information about the tools that are using. And here's a good one. A sales playbook should include at least one or a couple of pages on terminology. And when I say terminology, I'm not talking about, product terminology. I'm talking about terminology that's used inside of the sales team or that's used to communicate between the sales team and the leadership team. So, for instance, in sales, you have deals, right? And we have what's called deal stages. So that means that a salesperson has talked to someone and they've identified an opportunity as a potential deal. In a CRM system, and in general, even if it's just on a spreadsheet, you should have what's called deal stages. And that is where in the process of from start to close of a deal is this particular deal. And then you can assign actions towards that particular stage. But if you have a sales team that are not on the same page in regards to where they're defining their deals, right? So they, for instance, maybe there's a 70% stage, and some people define that as having had one demo in a conversation, whereas others define that as waiting for a contract to be signed. You as a sales leader are not going to have a clear view of your pipeline. Like
Hmm.
you're not going to understand what it looks like. So if you have in your sales playbook a terminology definition of what this is, that's important for the salesperson to know. That's a great spot to put
That's a really good answer. I need to go back and add some terminology sections to those playbooks I'm working on. I didn't think of that. That's a good one.
it. Hey, I'm cheap. You
Yeah.
can.
I just get you on the podcast. Want to do another one? Do another live podcast. We can work on these playbooks together.
Sure, sure.
Well, we're getting up there in time. Closing thoughts, Kaarina, where can people find you? Why should they find you? Closing thoughts, words of wisdom.
You can find me on LinkedIn. I am doing some consulting these days, helping companies to do actually exactly what we were talking about, right? So how do you set up a team for growth? How do you write a playbook? What's the strategy, vision? How do you set up quotas? How do you set up, compensation packages, all of this kind of stuff. Like basically, how do you build a really well functioning sales team? So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can also, I do have an email address, which is my first name dot my last name at growth impact AI. So you can find me there as well. And best of all, contact Tucker, as everyone knows who you are.
Yeah, and you will. How about this? Go put that. Put your contact information in the comments on the LinkedIn version of this. That way, anyone watching this recording can easily find it. And
Sure.
Kaarina. You got to be careful saying my first name at growthimpact.com.
Yeah. I know. So no, it's actually Kaarina I'm going to make it complicated.
Oh.
KVAAVIK at growthimpact.ai.
There you go. All right. Kaarina, thank you so much for coming on. This has been fun. Always a pleasure to catch up with you. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Go
Anytime.
ahead and take us out here. So, ladies, gentlemen, chat, we are out of time for today. If you enjoyed this Nimdzi Live experience, join us next time on March 11th. We have this actually isn't a Nimdzi Live. It's better than that. I'm going to refresh here. We have 351 attendees already signed up. March 11th, 9 o'clock a.m. Yurik's going to be talking to you about LLM solutions and how to use them. I appreciate our guest today, Kaarina. I appreciate my colleagues here at Nimdzi Insights doing all the hard work so I can have these interesting conversations. I appreciate everyone in our industry who fills out our Nimdzi surveys and schedules briefings with us. Hint, hint, the Nimdzi 100 research is almost closed. So if you want your company featured in the Nimdzi 100 annual market report this year, you better reach out to us. You can reach out to research@nimdzi.com, reach out to me, just get a hold of us. Yeah, finally, I appreciate all of you guys in chat. Not a lot of activity in chat today, but I saw a lot of you peeking in there. Had a bunch of people joining us today. Really appreciate you joining us today, and I look forward to next time. Cheers.